Well, Agency Enlightened is here, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoy this module as much as I enjoyed making it for you and delivering it to you today for free. Oh my God, for free from my heart and from the heart of all of humanity. Enjoy and know that I am no longer in business. I've sold pretty much all my equity in Better AMS. I am now an inactive partner who holds a minor stake, and that is official, signed on the dot. Wow, 7 or 8 years of running and that thing and starting it, and I am out, ladies and gents. It feels fantastic, and I pray that all of you who are going on this journey are served well by the content in Agency Enlightened, and that it helps you reach a point where you have financial freedom and that you can live in the middle of the jungle and hold this tripod thingy with a straw hat and talk about whatever you want to talk about, okay? So enjoy this module, and know also that there's a link in the description for accessing the resources and the action items that you need to, complete whatever the module is. It's all there, it's all free. And know that if you want to support the nonprofit that I'm starting called Satori, you can go in the link in the description and you'll be able to opt in to be notified when the Satori podcast goes live, which is going to be probably in a matter of 2 or 3 months or something like this. Real quick, before the module begins, you can just fast forward and skip this intro because it's going to be on every single module intro if you don't want to know this. But Satori is a nonprofit dedicated or devoted to helping mankind realize the self by sharing God's word. So that's what I want to do, and that seems to be where all my energy is going these days. If that sounds interesting to you, you can go and check it out and drop your little email in the landing page thing, okay? Thank Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Mary, Mother Teresa, and all the great sages and avatars that walked on this earth. May it be so that all of what is spoken out of Satori is heard and understood by all of mankind, and that it is felt as the gift that it is from my heart, okay? Mwah! I love you all very much. Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to this video. My name is Taylor Benchard. I'm going to guide you through Module 1 of Agency Enlightened called The Journey Ahead. So here's what we're going to cover. Your goal, which is Agency Enlightened, victim vision, house rules and routine, work expectations, and program overview. So, first, let's just define what the agency norm looks like, how most agencies operate, and then we're going to define Agency Enlightened so that you can get a really clear contrast as to the two different types of agencies there are. So this is basically the description of the agency norm. Common scenarios are you own a job, not an agency, meaning if you died, the agency would die. You've hit a plateau. It's very difficult to keep growing, or you feel like you're kind of stuck in this never-ending loop. Revenue is unpredictable. Churn is high with talent and clients, so revenue is unpredictable. Some of the traits that we've listed here is the agency is heavily dependent upon you, the founder, or the founders. The agency pretty much lacks vision or mission. It may be led by a leadership team that only cares about profit. This is a common scenario. The agency doesn't necessarily hire well, a lot of B and C's. They don't empower their people well. The agency is very profit-centric, and that is really the only thing that exists in terms of the mission and vision. There's nothing beyond profit. They take on a lot of non-ideal clients. The agency justifies, cutting corners and cheating and basically deception. It's run by self-centered leaders who pretty much care more about themselves than their teams. And typically, these agencies don't have clarity around what their offer really is, and they're kind of just flying by night and hoping that they can sign more clients, and they're signing a lot of unideal clients. So this is a harsh description of the agency norm, but we see this a lot. And some more attributes that we typically see is, first of all, at the core, it stems from a very egotistical founder and or management. There's very toxic culture, a lot of secrecy and lying, slow growth, egotistical leadership typically will die without its founders. And you can pause this and read these word for word and all the different
attributes within those 5 different kind of categories that I just listed. I'll just go through a couple though. Toxic culture seems to be the one I see the most. So, mistreated talent, untrained talent. Talent is seen and treated as subordinates. 1 to 2 year retention rate of talent, sometimes a lot less than that. A lot of drama, blame is common, dictatorship style of leadership, and there's not necessarily a clear vision or mission for the company. Books are closed. There's no one discussing lost clients. There's no one discussing even sometimes lost talent or what the reason was for somebody being fired or somebody leaving. There's a Persian messenger syndrome, which is like shoot the messenger syndrome, where if somebody brings bad news, you are going to get told not to do that ever again. And so this is just not an ideal agency to be a part of. And part of the reason why I'm so excited for Agency Enlightened is because we really want to change the way agencies are. Most of them really suck, and they are all of these different attributes. And sometimes they aren't the one. They won't die without the founder, but they've grown into this ugly monster. And so just to summarize all of this, the ultimate weakness of this agency is that they don't empower their people. There's a lack of people centricity, really. And it typically dies without the founder unless the agency has become big enough to where it can self-sustain. But even then, it just sucks that there's this toxic kind of culture with a lot of people in it that could work at a much more higher conscious agency. It lacks long-term thinking, no clear vision or mission that's compelling to people, micromanages, doesn't really believe or trust people, lies, covers up negative news, very profit-oriented above anything else, and believes strongly that the end justifies the means. So here's Agency Enlightened. The ultimate strength is obviously the antithesis of what we just discussed in the agency norm. People centricity is really at the core of Agency Enlightened. And a brief description I have here. Keep in mind, if you're doing over $100,000 per month, that's totally fine. It could be a higher number for you. You can change it. But your agency is doing over $100,000 per month and would continue to thrive without you while maintaining a great culture, strong people centricity, desired margins, and exceptional client/team retention. However, you don't really have a desire to slow down your work ethic because of the fact that you really love working alongside this team that you've built, and it's truly the beginning stage of experiencing Agency Enlightened. It's blissful. This is truly kind of how I feel about our agency, Better AMS, and I'm so grateful that we've reached this stage, because there was a time when it was none of these things really, and it was quite terrible, and we've learned a lot along the way and how to run high conscious, more I guess you could say enlightened company with a much better culture and vision and mission, etc. So here's a good kind of bridge between the two. And these are kind of the main attributes that I wanted to call out. So agency norm, toxic culture, doesn't empower people, slow growth, dies without the founder. Again, the last one, not always true. And Agency Enlightened, great culture, fully empowers people, steady growth, thrives without the founders. And again, that last point, even on Agency Enlightened, not always true. Sometimes there's cases where the founder is detrimental if they're lost. So really, this is the difference between the two. Obviously, you want to be the latter. Now, what if you're already doing $100,000 per month, but you don't feel like anywhere near Agency Enlightened in the sense that you don't really have a culture or mission or vision, or you feel like your team isn't that great, or, yada, yada. Well, that's fine. You're kind of just ahead of the curve a little bit, because you just need to simply do some restructuring in your agency, probably to do with the culture and the talent that you have. So Agency Enlightened can still definitely help with this. Fear not. And house rules and routine. So, community rules. There's only a few simple rules that really need to be followed here to ensure we have a great community. It's pretty simple. Some of the things you should do is come on the Q&A, the coaching calls when you have questions, ask detailed questions in the group, try to be as detailed as possible, and introduce yourself in the group if you're new to the community. By doing these 3 things, I truly believe you'll get results faster. And the things that you shouldn't do is make victim posts or comments in the group. We'll talk about how we define that word. And don't share your program or login or private resources. Again, these are things that you have purchased and you have had access to. And if we share these things outside of the group, we're basically giving them away for free, which devalues the program, and we don't want this. And also doing so will get you banned from the program if somehow we find out. So don't promote yourself. This isn't a program where a community where you can try to sign clients or something like this. and don't teach on theory. Please always teach on actual experience. So if you break any of these rules, we'll send you a warning depending on the severity of the rule that you break, and if you break it again, then we'll just have to remove you from the community. That's never happened, though. We've never had to remove anybody, so fingers crossed. Here's some other things. Group coaching calls. These run twice a week on Mondays at 4 p.m., Thursdays at 10 a.m. GMT -5. If this changes, you'll see in the program UI, there's a calendar section which shows when the coaching calls are happening. So again, take this slide with a grain of salt. Coaching style, call style. We do Q&A in Zoom, so you can come on to the Zoom call that happens twice a week. You can ask your question in chat, and then you'll be unmuted. And it's first come, first serve, which basically just means that if you are the first one on the call and the first one to ask a question, you're going to be the first person to be unmuted. There's no other way that this works. So if you want to come in and out of the coaching call quickly to get your question answered, just be the first person to join the Zoom, copy paste your question into the chat, and you'll be the first one. The hosts of the coaching calls will for now just be myself, and in the future we look to bring in Destiny and potentially Alex as well once we grow the community a bit more. Off weeks, we'll probably have about 10 weeks of the year where there's going to be no coaching calls due to, offsites, retreats, vacations, different things like this. And so 42 weeks of the year, we're still going to have the coaching calls. And to get the most out of these calls, or just the program in general, I think that, coming on these coaching calls is one of the best ways to get value because it's one-on-one. And this always gives you the most clarity and value because, yes, there's this program that we've built which has amazing mental models and frameworks for growing your agency. But, there's going to be pieces that aren't really clear to you or that are missing. And so this is why we have these coaching calls. And also coming on and listening to other people's is also helpful. So here's some random questions that people have asked that I just want to state here. Group post response times. We'll do our best to get a response within 48 hours of your post. Typically it's sooner than this. And again, we'll consider this business days. Even though I work Saturdays, I typically try to just use those days for, like laser focus and not necessarily responding to support, but sometimes I will. And will the program change over time? Yes, it will evolve as our agency evolves. How will it change over time? Well, it really just depends on how our agency evolves. And is there anything beyond Agency Enlightened? We plan to eventually launch an in-person mastermind of some kind once the group and the community becomes big enough. So how you can get support, it's pretty straightforward. First of all, go through the training program. This typically is going to answer most of your questions. Then there's the group coaching calls. We already talked about this. And then there's the group itself, the community, which you can post in, which you should already have an understanding of. This slide actually says Facebook group, which is inaccurate. We used to, in the group, we used to run out of a Facebook group, but we're in the process of transitioning to a different UI called School. So make sure that if you post in the group and you ask a question, use brevity and give as much detail as possible. This will allow for the best and most detailed response. Now, let's talk about the victim virus. Blaming, really, we don't want people that act like victims. And I do my best to filter out people that come into this community to make sure that they don't have this type of mindset because it is truly detrimental and very toxic. But blaming victims, they really blame everyone and everything else for whatever is going on that is negative within their life, and this is terrible. Reactionary, they are typically reacting to what is happening in their life, and they're doing so out of emotions rather than logic. And a classic example of this, well, you can probably think of a million examples when you get like triggered or angry or something and then you react in a non-logical way. Failure victims are really kind of like expect failure and are somewhat addicted to it. It's almost like they want to just do something just to prove to others that they knew it wasn't going to work. It's this really weird, inverted, negative mindset. Innocence, they're addicted to always, claiming, oh, it's not my fault, I'm innocent. And then they're stubborn, they're very close-minded. And this whole thing stems from like a really unhealthy ego. So this is really the difference between victim virus, like someone that's a victim and someone that takes radical responsibility. We obviously want to be the latter. So victims, they basically, the environment creates their reality. They're always very responsive. And in the opposite side, which we could consider the enlightened side, there's radical responsibility. And this is where you create your own environment and you believe that you're creating your own destiny, etc. So one comes from an unhealthy ego and the other one is possible only with a healthy ego. We'll talk more about the ego and what that is in a future modules to come. But yeah, let's talk about work expectations. Actually, I just want to come back and talk about this point one more time. With radical responsibility, it's basically you taking complete responsibility for everything that occurs in your life, and you operate really from this like observer state, constantly aware of every thought, emotion, action, and less preferable emotions or thoughts are observed carefully and dealt with and objectively before they spread. You love and embrace failure because you see failure as necessary feedback that gets you one step closer to success. And yeah, you truly believe that you create your environment. You're open-minded and never hold any beliefs too tightly. So these are really some traits that go with the definition of radical responsibility. All right, let's talk about work expectations. So there's definitely not a magic bullet in Agency Enlightened. I hope nobody comes into this program believing that there's going to be this one tactic that's going to 10x their agency or something like this. It's really, the program is built on core mental models and frameworks rather than temporary tactics, fly-by-night tactics. So that is the big difference between this and a lot of other programs out there. In the previous version of Agency Enlightened, which some of you may not have seen or some of you have seen, depending on how long you've been in this program, we did put in a lot of tactics. And I find that that's actually less valuable than the core mental models and frameworks, because the core mental models and frameworks, which we'll talk about here in a second, is really what teaches you how to grow your agency yourself. Whereas if you just give someone a tactic, well, it never really taught them how to come up with their own tactics that can help them grow their agency. So rather than giving somebody a fish, you teach them how to fish. And that is really why we go deep into mental models and frameworks. So work ethic. Reaching Agency Enlightened, in my opinion, requires tremendous work ethic and focus. I mean, to do anything great, typically work ethic and focus are very much needed. So don't think that it's going to be a cakewalk. It's definitely going to take a lot of energy and time. But you can have a lot of fun doing it. And it's the best thing you can possibly do for your agency and everybody in your team. So adversity. Learn to love adversity. Pretty straightforward. I think that this is one of the best mindsets you can adopt. Adversity is a really good thing. It teaches you a lot. Journey love. Reaching some MRR and profit goal brings little to no happiness. I once thought that once we get to 100K a month, oh my God, I'm going to be so happy. And yeah, that wasn't the case. So really all that matters is the journey. This is the journey to whatever MRR profit goal that you're setting for yourself, whether it's MRR profit or head count number, whatever it is. It's different for everybody what their goals seem to be in this idea of ooh, I'm going to be so happy once I get here. It's not so much like that. It's more actually just, wow, I'm going to really enjoy the journey of getting to this goal that I have. This is a really exciting goal. I'm excited by it, but I know that the journey of getting there is going to be actually more fun and rewarding than the day I hit that. So love work, fall in love with doing the work. This is basically the same as falling in love with the journey. And be all in. So fully commit, have urgency, be impatiently patient, remove all the distractions in your life and sacrifice everything possible to make this Agency Enlightened concept a reality so that you can have a much better situation within your work and be much happier. I can't tell you how much better it'll be. So, ladies and gents, this is an important concept. Imagine this fire is like your agency, and you should, or well, I guess maybe not necessarily your agency, but it's a fire in which the more things, distractions, and I like to call them portals of distractions that you eliminate, the bigger and bigger the fire becomes, the more energy you have. And so it starts out like most people have a lot of distractions. They watch a lot of Netflix. They play a lot of video games. I don't know, maybe they're doing drugs or partying a lot. And the more you take these things like Netflix and drugs or alcohol, video games, and you throw them into the fire and you just get rid of them completely, the better you're likely going to feel and the faster your agency is going to grow. I just can't tell you how simple this concept is, yet how drastic the results are to your agency. If you just get good sleep, you work out, you stay healthy, you eat good foods, you don't do drugs, you don't drink alcohol, and you avoid, partying out and staying out late because that'll mess with your sleep. The more you sacrifice those things, which really, in my opinion, isn't much of a sacrifice, the faster your agency is going to grow. And in my opinion, the happier you'll be. So consider this, a little exercise for you to think about all the places where you feel like you're wasting time. Obviously, there's time for leisure and recreation, I guess you could say. And that's fine once in a while. But you'll know if you're addicted to something or if you're doing something too much. And in those cases, throw it in the fire and get rid of it. Now, another thing that I really want to talk about here is it's very likely that you'll feel an emotional/motivational high or dopamine spike from joining this program. This is a very normal high, and it's going to fade very quickly. Anytime you make a big purchase, whether for a piece of content or whether it be like a nice car, like, I don't know, a house or something, there's always this like, wow, massive dopamine spike, so excited, and then like 48 hours later, like 1 to 2 weeks later, it's just completely gone. So don't feel down on yourself if/when you're less excited in 1 to 2 weeks or 1 to 2 days after joining the program. It's not that you're less excited, it's just actually that your body's kind of back to equilibrium and the high of purchasing this new program has worn off, and now you really need to like focus on doing the work. And personally, I've spent over like $100,000 on different training programs and mentorship, and I've experienced this high many times. It's very addicting. So it's good to be aware of it and use it as good motivation to get started and build momentum, but don't be discouraged when it's gone. Okay? It's important that you think long term. There's a reason why joining this program is a 12-month commitment. It's because I strongly believe that it's going to take about 12 months for some significant changes to occur in the agency, whether that be a goal of doubling your revenue, whether that be a goal of establishing a leadership team, or whatever your bottleneck is that you're trying to solve. I don't want you to have these expectations that you could potentially double your business in 2 months, 30 days, 3 months. Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios where this is possible, especially if you're a smaller agency that's doing $10,000, $20,000 a month. It's possible to double in 2-3 months. But just think long term and think about where you could be in 12 months' time and stay committed throughout the process. A good quote that kind of just backs what I just said is that most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. I resonate so deeply with this because in the first 2 to 3 years of growing our agency, I literally set the goal to be like $100 million agency in like by year 2 or year 3 and $1 billion agency by year 5. And that was very much, overestimating what I could achieve in 2 to 3 years. However, now if I look at things in a 10-year time frame, I feel like it's definitely realistic that we could become, an agency that's doing $25-50 million plus per year in 10 years. I don't think billion, that's not necessarily where my mind goes per se, but high 8 figures, absolutely. And with an evaluation of 9 figures, yes, I do think that is very possible in a 10-year time frame. And another really important concept that we'll talk more about here is you versus you. Please never compare yourself to anyone else's success. Adopt a you versus you mindset. If you see other people in or outside of the group, the community, winning and growing their agency, reach out and see if they can help, or use their success as fuel. If you catch yourself feeling bad because of other people's success, realize that it's because you're comparing yourself to them, and this isn't logical at all. You just can't do this. And a good logical explanation as to why you can't do this is because you are just so idiosyncratic to be, you're too idiosyncratic to be compared to anyone else. You're too different. The experiences you've gone through, everything about you is too different. You're so unique relative to every other human on planet Earth. You can't compare yourself. Definitely remember in the early stages of growing my agency, seeing people, how they talked about going from 0 to 100 KMRR in 90 days, something insane like this. And I just remember feeling so, shit about the fact that I was stuck at 35K a month in that second year or something like this. So you shouldn't be doing this. It is very much a you versus you battle. Other people's success, cool, it's great. You can definitely learn from it, but it's not something to look at and feel bad about. Program overview. So I said this before, give someone a fish and you feed them for a day, teach them teach someone, we have a little bit of a typo, teach someone to fish, and you feed them for a lifetime. So in this program, I mean, really, we're trying to teach you to fish. We're not trying to give you fish or give you these click-by-click tactics that are going to fade away and go away in 2 to 3 months. We're teaching you the core mental models and frameworks. Now, here's what the program looks like. So everyone starts in the foundation, which you could consider week 1 or sector 1. And you're going through these modules within this sector sequentially in linear order. And then the final module in the foundation is going to basically help you ask and find where the bottleneck is in your agency. And then you'll move to either marketing, sales, operations, human resources, or finance, depending on where the bottleneck is. So the whole program isn't to be gone through in a linear fashion. I mean, if you wanted to, you could, but I think that you'll get the best results for your agency if you go through the foundation in a linear order, and then after that, there's an exercise at the end in the last module of this sector or this week that helps you identify which sector you should move into next. And just brief overview of each sector and what to expect. The foundation is really how to best go through the program, how to think, mental models, and mindset. I mean, mindset is a huge part of the foundation. I think a very important part of the entire program. Make sure you go through it. And then there's the agency fundamentals, like what's your niche, your service, your ideal account profile, culture, service market fit, these kinds of things. The marketing is really all about just how to attract more quality leads, land more discovery calls. Sales is about obviously how to close more deals, how to price your services, qualify prospects. Ops is understanding systems, building systems at scale, leveraging automation specialists. We actually don't go too deep into leveraging automation specialists. It is mentioned, but it's not something we go extremely deep on. How to remove yourself from working ITB, this is definitely the core goal of operations. And then there's human resources, which is knowing when and who to hire, how to vet, how to train, manage, retain, how and when to begin assembling your leadership. These are the things we're going to go through in HR. And then finance, of course, all the fun stuff, structuring your P&Ls, performance dashboards, monitoring accounts receivable, paying yourself a fixed salary, profit margins, yada, yada, all the fun stuff. Now, here's some simple mental models. Radical responsibility, we talked about this. It's the belief that I create my environment and take radical responsibility for everything that occurs in my life. Really good mental model to download into your consciousness. The map is not the territory. Really great mental model. This course is a great map, but like all maps, it's an imperfect reduction of the territory. So what that means is, you need to realize that you know your territory better than I do, or better than this program ever could. And so yes, this program is a good map, but should it be just blindly followed to a T? No, you have to be aware and, put your own input into and merge it with the content that you're basically downloading and learning about from this program. That way you'll basically be able to form the best map for yourself. So you're kind of taking your own intuition about what you know about your industry and your service and your agency, mixed with the mental models and frameworks that you're gonna learn about in Agency Enlightened, and that's gonna basically be able to give you the best form of results. So the map is not the territory. Create, don't clone. This is similar to the map one, but adding your own DNA to everything you learn is what will yield you the greatest results. So again, I don't necessarily go over very specific click-by-click tactics to show you exactly how we're doing what we are doing. This is not necessarily something that we do. There are definitely some things that we go through quite in depth, but it's not designed to tell you that you need to do this. We truly believe in context over control, which basically means, hey, we're going to set the context and give you the mental models and frameworks you need to know how to get this and achieve this. We're not going to control you by telling you need to do this. In fact, programs that do control you and tell you need to go and do this A, B, C, D, and E, and like specific things, like very, kind of in the weeds things, like you need to post at least every day on this platform at this time, and this type of content. If I was to tell you that would be absurd, because I have no idea if that's actually going to perform very well. Rather, what's more important is basically core mental models and frameworks that can help you think about how to approach your market and what the best marketing strategy may be. Okay, not telling you, hey, do this exact ABCD step and you'll get results. You should always kind of look at that as a red flag. Now, velocity over speed, go through the program at your own pace. Don't try to rush through it. Straightforward. The only two things that matter. This is a good little pinup. It really allowed me to, just like this is probably the biggest thing that really helped me with understanding how to grow the agency and just like look at the agency in general. Zoom out and identify the biggest bottleneck. We'll talk about what bottlenecks are in a future module, and then fix it. And then zoom out and identify the biggest bottleneck and fix it. And you repeat this, and if you repeat this long enough, so your agency starts growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And a good way to think about this is, imagine you wake up in the morning and you live in like, I don't know, savannah of some sort, and you walk up onto this giant rock and you scan the environment and you're looking for like, I don't know, a really risky scenario, like there's a bunch of hyenas over here and they're coming into your territory. That's going to cause a really big problem. So you have to go and deal with that and get rid of them. Cool. That's how you should visualize zooming out, looking at your agency, identify what is the biggest bottleneck that's holding this thing back from growing, fix it. And then go back to that zoom out point on the rock where you can see everything to do with the agency and see the whole environment. Find that bottleneck, fix it, etc. That's really what you're doing. You're scanning the environment, zooming out, identifying, fixing. Beautiful. So the growth of your agency dependent upon you and your team's ability to execute on these two things. So here's your action items. Print off the agency Enlightened PDF and pin it up somewhere in your office or save it on your computer. Then there's another one, only two things that matter, PDF. I would recommend pinning this up and putting it somewhere in your office, or saving it on your computer. And then there's a third one, which contains the mental models of the programs. And that, again, is a pinup. Then the fourth action item is to block off the coaching Q&A call times in your calendar. If you use Google Calendar, whatever you use, just remember, the calls are at the same time. You can go into the calendar section of the program and identify when the calls are. For now, they're set to 10 a.m. GMT -5 on Thursdays and 4 p.m. GMT -5 on Mondays. And then introduce yourself in the group. I truly believe that this is a good thing to do. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but it's a good thing that we focus on trying to build a great community of agency owners that are all willing and wanting to help each other. Okay, and introducing yourself is a good way to get the momentum started. So again, this is the first pinup, the agency Enlightened PDF pinup between the agency norm and agency Enlightened. Then we have the only two things that matter, and then we have the mental models. Ladies and gents, I want to close this module off with one quick quote. The reason why we're really making this program, or why I feel really compelled to make Agency Enlightened, is because, the greatest danger in business and life lies not in outright failure, but in achieving success without understanding why you were successful in the first place. So selfishly speaking, building Agency Enlightened has really served our agency so well, because it's really helped us get a deep understanding of what we've done to get us to where we currently are. And that is something that, believe it or not, can be lost or not fully understood as you grow your agency. So actually, prior to building Agency Enlightened, I didn't have as much clarity around just all the things that we've done, growing from 0 to whatever 130, 140k MRR. And it's just been really beautiful. So this is something that I really resonate deeply. If you ever wonder why we started Agency Enlightened, well, one, agencies typically suck, and two, it's really good to know how you grow your own agency and put those frameworks and mental models into some type of course. So yes, let's get to work. Thanks, ladies and gents, for watching this module. If you have any questions, always come on, post something in the community, or come on one of the live Q&A/coaching calls. Much love, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.